how our minds interact with reality, and we're going to looking at it from a spiritual point of view, which is going to be looking at actually how we create reality using our mind and our consciousness. And I'll be sharing a story about something that happened this week that illustrates the power of that, actually, the power of the mind creating. And then we're going to look at affirmations. I'm sure many people are very familiar with affirmations, and we're going to use one of the really powerful affirmations that comes from this wonderful book, which I recommend to everybody. If you've not read The Autobiography of a Yogi, it would be a good idea. I think it's a great idea for anybody, regardless of whether you're coming from a Christian tradition or you're coming from a more Eastern tradition. Autobiography of Yogi by Paramahansa Yogananda is a wonderful book. This isn't that book. This is Scientific Healing Affirmations by Paramahansa Yogananda, and we'll talk a bit more about that as we get into it. But before we get started on any of that, we're going to settle, center, going to ground. Mason's going to lead us into a grounding, arriving meditation. And then we'll sort of open up the conversation and we'll finish with the affirmation.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, yeah, super interesting, super cool topic, Mike. So yeah, like just coming to the space and just coming here, um, maybe you're here for like you want to hear the discussion, maybe you're here you just want to do a meditation, maybe you're here you just want to feel relaxed. But yeah, this topic of how our minds interact with reality and how we maybe kind of create our reality, how that's a similar topic. But if we, yeah, just kind of keeping that in mind and to observe the mind, maybe as we just sit and ground for a moment or two, a few moments here, um, we'll just create like a flow and you jump in, jump out as you want to sit, as you want to be. But if you just begin by getting comfortable in your seat, I always like to get comfortable in my seat. If you want to take a moment or stand, maybe you want to take a moment and lay down if you can hear this. Um, but just begin to create the flow of stillness, kind of the relaxing place of stillness. When I say the flow, I mean just gently relaxing into your space, not trying to think, okay, I'm gonna get into meditation mode now. I have to speak to myself a certain way or think to myself a certain way. It's just about relaxing and noticing how comfortable you are and how comfortable you might want to be sitting for the next few moments, for the next while. And as you kind of just immediately begin to pay attention to your thoughts, try to notice your thoughts, try to notice your breath, try to just start noticing as much as you can. Try to notice as much as you can on your way further into relaxation. Try to stay in tune with being aware. We're not going for sleepy here. We're not trying to go to bed, but just try to be aware and just try to notice again, just notice your thoughts. And by just simply noticing them, it's almost like a degree of separation to just notice your thoughts gently. And when you notice them, it's like you're observing them almost from a safe distance where you don't need to react to them as strongly. And try to notice no matter what thoughts come up, to gently release them and come back to the comfort that you started noticing at the beginning of the meditation. The more you sit with the comfort, potentially the more comfortable it could be. The more used to it you become, the more familiar silence and comfort could actually be. So if you call this meditation, or if you call this relaxation, or if you call this mindfulness, or if you call this grounding, just simply being aware of your body and what you're feeling and observing everything from the present moment. Just trying to observe the thoughts you have, the feelings you have in this moment. This might stabilize you. This might bring some clarity. This might help you to absorb the next little while, the next discussion, the next little bit. Your nervous system might relax. Your nervous system might thank you for just doing such a practice now. So with the goal in mind to ground and to just try to step into the present moment as much as possible, we just come back to the moment now with 3 deep breaths. Just come back with 3 breaths, a little deeper than normal in through the nose. Let them fall out of your nose, your mouth. Just let them circulate on their own. Another deep breath, second one at your own pace. And then just let it fall out. And as you return to the present moment again, continuously, and you're ready to listen or discuss, just take one final deep breath and open your eyes and just welcome the present moment and take note of how you feel. That would be one version of a grounding exercise, you would say. How do you feel, Mike?
That's really nice. Thank you.
Okay.
Really nice. Yeah, so maybe we'll start talking about the topic for today's Spiritual Sunday, which is about how the mind creates reality. Rather than sort of kind of go into some kind of abstract stuff, I'll just tell you a story about something that happened to me, happened in my experience this week.
Yeah.
So one of my friends, he's gone on holiday. So he's gone on holiday to Turkey with his wife's Turkish, and they've gone for about a month or something in Turkey for the summer. And he said to me before, about a couple of months before when I was planning it, he said, "Look, will you look after the dog for me?" And I was like, "Yeah, of course, yeah, lovely dog." So yeah, of course. And he says, "Well, and will you look after the cat as well?" And I was like, "Oh, really?" I love the cat as well. The cat's called Sky and the dog's called Dipper. So like Big Dipper and Sky. So the kids named them, so they've kind of got very celestial kind of names. And it's a beautiful, beautiful cat. However, I was a little bit concerned because of the way my house is. In the summer, we've got these big patio doors that open onto the garden, and we often have those open, and we often have quite a lot of windows open because it gets very hot. And I was just like, God, but what if he gets out? What if he just runs out and I lose the cat? And he was saying, no, listen, he sleeps all day. he's a, he doesn't even move fast. He's not going to run out. He's not going to do it. You'll be fine. So I agreed to look after the cat. However, the thought never left my mind. Oh, what if I do lose the cat? What if I lose the cat? And I actually wished I'd said no. And it's actually wise. If it's a no, quite often it's a good idea to actually make it a no, like a quality no. But anyway,
Good point. Good point. Yeah. Was a solid
so
good point.
so I forgot. I actually, and then me and my friend being the way we are, we sort of time slipped past, and we didn't. I don't think either of us put it into our diaries. And then a couple of weeks, maybe a week before, he was going on holiday. He said, "So are you okay about the cat and the dog?" And I was like, "Oh my God, I forgot about that." And I was like, "Okay, yeah, fine. Okay, we'll do it." And so, I got the dog and then got the cat. And with a cat, so I'm not really used to I often look after other people's dogs, but I've never really looked after people's cats. So the cat comes in and he gets out of his basket, and I said, "Right, well, I'll lock him in the front room, the room I'm in now, and he can stay there for a few days with his litter tray, and he can get used to the space, because I know cats have to do that."
Hmm.
And then feeling kind of sorry for him, because I know he was pretty freaked out. I thought, well, I'll sleep in that room because there's a couch there, and I'll sleep on the couch and I'll keep the cat company. And at least, we know each other, so at least maybe he'll feel better. So,
Hmm.
and I thought the dog would come in and sleep in the room as well, because the dog and the cat are best friends. And I thought, well, that'll be really nice. So that'll reassure him. But actually, the dog decided it wanted to sleep somewhere else in the house. So I was like, okay. Slept on the couch. The cat got behind a chair and it was just kind of cowering underneath the chair. And about 5 o'clock in the morning, the dog came and knocked on the door and kind of like wanted me to let him out in the garden. So I got up. I was a little bit groggy, a bit sleepy. Went out. Thought I'd closed the living room door behind me, but it looks like I didn't. And then I let the dog into the garden, and then sort of left it, stood around, because I'm thinking I don't want to leave this door. Came back in, closed the door, got back on the couch, fell asleep for a couple of hours, and woke up at 7 o'clock the next morning
Mm.
with a cat nowhere to be seen.
Goodness.
So this is a
Good. Like, yeah.
yeah. So this is a cat. This is not just my friend's cat. This is my friend's daughter's cat, who on the day that I thought the cat had gone missing, it was her 11th birthday. So I got up 7 o'clock. I kind of was like, okay, the cat's not in the front room. How is the cat not in the front room? Okay, don't panic. It must be in the house. Look in all the little corners. Then I'm looking around the house and I'm looking everywhere. And we had some house guests. So I kind of woke them up because they could hear me barreling around the house. They helped me look for the cat. And we're looking everywhere for this cat. And nowhere was it to be seen. So this is like now it's about 7:30 in the morning, nearly 8 o'clock, and I'm like, oh my God, I've lost my friend's. He must have run out the front door when I let the dog out.
Mm.
Now the cat's lost. It doesn't know. It doesn't even know how to get. It doesn't even know there's a house to get back to.
Right.
And
Right.
where we live on a block that's like all terraced housing, British terraced housing, and in the middle there's all the gardens are like one big garden, sort of done into little gardens, right?
Gotcha. Yeah.
So I know that I knew that it couldn't have got out the front door. So I'm assuming so I'm like, right, well, it's in those gardens somewhere. So then what I do is my printer's not working. So I go onto the high street. I'm sort of quite panicky, and I'm managed to find a shop that's not quite open yet, but I'm banging on his door, and he lets me in, and he charges me to print. I've made posters. Managed to get a
Okay.
picture of the cat, and I've missing cat, so I've made posters, made
Yeah.
leaflets, and I'm like,
Yeah.
and I thought, I don't how many am I going to need? I don't know. 200, so I can get two from one A4 sheet,
Okay.
and he charges me 30 pence a copy, so I end up spending £30 on photocopying. Get home,
Yeah.
then just buy about half eight, 9 o'clock, about 9 o'clock, I'm knocking on every door, all of my neighbours' doors. And if they're not in, I put a leaflet through the door. If they are in, I talk to them and tell them what's happened and ask them if they'll look in their garden. And they've got my phone number now, so I do that.
Mm-hmm.
Then I get home and I don't know what else to do. So I take some of the leaflets and I wrap them in these little plastic pockets and I tie them on all the lampposts in the area and all the trees in the area.
Yeah.
And this takes a while. And then I go to the local vets and tell the local vets about the cat. The cat's gone missing. So I'm involving my entire neighbourhood and the vets. I go to two different vets, tell them about it, leave them with posters. And then it's getting towards a point of time when people are going to probably come home from work.
Oh wow,
So,
all day.
so all day, I'm going in the back garden, calling the cat's name, shaking a box of cat treats like the vet told me to do. People have given me lots of different advice. And they said, look, if you've got anything that smells of its owners, if you put that in the garden, then the cat will probably, smell that and it'll come and it'll know, at least it'll know where to go.
Okay, good advice. Huh?
So I get on a train across London. I don't even know if my friend's flat has got an alarm or not. So I just chance it because I've got the keys. He hasn't told me, and I don't want to tell him that the cat's gone missing.
Right.
Because what can they do? They're in Turkey, and it's their daughter's birthday, and it's their daughter's cat. So then they'd have to keep, and it. Then I sort of let myself into their house, ratch through their dirty laundry, pick up shoes, trainers, blankets, items of clothing, travel back across London, hang them with bits of string in the garden. So the garden's now full of bits of laundry and shoes, and then
Okay.
it's time to go, and it's getting quite late. So then I'm not going round and knocking on the neighbours again and basically pleading with them, please, 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 can I come and look in the garden? And I do that till it gets dark. Still, we don't find the cat. And I think, oh
Oh,
my God, the cat's going to have to spend a night on its own in the dark. And I felt so bad, awful. It was a very, very difficult experience. And it got to about 11 o'clock, and I thought, well, I'm just going to have to write my blog, and I'll just have to maybe catch up with some messages. I'm just going to have to deal with it. And I get really quiet,
mhm.
and I'm listening very, really intently. We've got the doors open. We're listening for anything in that might be in the garden. I think maybe did I hear a cat crying? Was that? No. And then I hear what sounds like cat little paws in the house. And I look at the dog, and the dog looks at me, and the dog goes right upstairs. And as I'm going up the stairs, we find the cat was in the house all the time. It had
My
managed,
yeah.
it had managed to find a place behind a wardrobe, and it had hidden behind the wardrobe. And once it felt safe enough, it came out. So if you think about, I was afraid that I would lose the cat, then to me it looked like what I feared had come true. And then my mind created a reality in which the cat was missing. And I experienced that terror and horror. And I involved, I don't know, 100 other people in that as well. So, people were phoning me saying, is this your cat? Is that your cat? And actually, none of it was real. So, if
But
we
yeah.
if we believe something to be true, we're gonna, even if it's not true, the cat was completely safe at home, then we're gonna recreate it. So I created a reality where the cat was missing and could die, and actually the cat was perfectly safe in my house.
Yeah. So it's like it's super interesting. I feel like there's so much to talk about there for sure, Mike. But I think like yeah, you before the cat had gone missing, you had began to worry about that scenario, right? You ran that scenario in your mind.
I'd imagined it was something that I feared, I
Yeah.
thought that could happen, and then I made an assumption that my fear was real and true, even though it
Yeah.
wasn't. Then I experienced the world. I was in a world with a missing cat.
Yeah. But so yeah, so it's like so the cat was safe, but then it went into hiding, and your mind played out the scenario that you played out before, like your fear, like, oh my goodness, I'll lose the cat. Then the cat goes missing, and then your mind is like, oh right, like exactly what I feared. The like we've lost the cat, the cat's gone. But you never once considered, or maybe you did, like the cat's just in super good hiding. I guess you looked everywhere. You said you and your friends looked, you just couldn't find the cat. But
Well, I was saying,
yeah,
well, I was like, well, I know this house, I know this house back to front. I didn't know that cats could get into such small places and hide, and that they would hide for such a long time. I didn't, so I didn't
right.
know that. My knowledge was incomplete.
Right. Okay, yeah, right. Well, okay, but you know what really sticks out to me is as you told the story, the last thing you said was the cat emerged like when it was safe, when it felt safe to do that. And it's like it's just that, the cat disappeared and then your energy, your nervous system went into panic mode, and you were kind of nervous, like this, like giving off energy, doing whatever, like that was contributing to your reality. And then when you accepted, okay, you know what, I'm just gonna get to some messages and write my blog, and like I'll just deal with this a different way. I've been stressing, like when you did that, like funny how the energy shifted, then the cat felt safe and then the cat emerged. So it's like just such odd synchronicity there, I find, don't you?
Well, yeah, I mean, it was literally 10 minutes after I managed. I said, look, there's nothing else I can do now. I've done literally everything that I can think of. And
So
then,
so so yeah.
yeah,
So I wonder that. I wonder, like, oh, your mind, it began with your mind. Oh, I'm gonna lose the cat. I'm gonna lose the cat. Okay, the cat's gone. So your mind led that one. And then again, the second chapter around, you're like, okay, well, I'm gonna deal with this a different way. I'm just gonna deal with this, and like that's like exiting the frantic mode and just go head on. And then the cat reappeared. Like it's like twice the cat followed what your mind was doing.
possibly
It
so.
looks like.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It makes sense, doesn't it? Yeah.
I think most people would say it makes sense that the cat found a good hiding spot and like it hid there until it was safe. That's what science would say. But I don't know why I'm trying to pay attention to, like, well, your mind did it first, cat left, and then your mind got calm and the cat got calm. And it's all in your thing. Anyway, I don't know. I don't know how to put that into words exactly, but I just find that interesting.
Well, if you think about it, we're always acting on our belief system,
Yeah.
what we believe to be true,
Yeah.
and often, as you kind of go through your life's journey, you find the things that you thought were true turn out not to be true. In this case, the cat was behind a wardrobe, not lost and lonely in a garden. A lot of people believe that if somebody gets to know them on a deep level, they'll find something. Their shameful secrets will be exposed. But maybe, actually, when maybe that's not true. Maybe that's something that happened to you when you were a kid, and you understood it from a kid point of view, and you used the coping strategies that you had when you were a child. But now you're an adult. Actually, you go through a therapy process and you begin to see things differently. Some people think that foreign people from outside of the country coming to their country is causing their standard of living to decline. People,
Yeah.
some people think, oh, I don't know. They think that voting for a billionaire is a sensible thing because that billionaire is going to, serve your interests. So I guess if we just come down to the very, very, very simple thing is that our consciousness creates our reality. If we believe a thing is true, if we think it, and when we think it, it feels true, then that's the world that we live in. And that helps us to, and it's the most obvious thing in the world, but sometimes you have to really point the obvious things out. That's why, however, there's probably about 8 billion people on the planet now, and every single person is having a individual experience. We've got some things in common, but everybody is experiencing the world from their own point of view, according to what evidence is being presented to them we're forming our identities, we're becoming a person, and then we live from that lens.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
I think it's true.
so we're co-creating a reality, but we're also creating our own individual experience based on the assumptions that we have, the beliefs that we have. My assumption and belief was cat's missing, cat's lost. Oh my God, how am I going to tell my friend's daughter that I lost her cat? Is she's not going to see her cat again? How am I going to do that? So it was all a mental projection. None of it was real. And yet I experienced that for 14 or 15 hours. I experienced my own mind for 14. I didn't experience what was actually happening. I experienced what I thought was happening.
Yeah.
And I think that's something that's just, like I say, so obvious. It almost feels like to talk about it is not very much worth, but actually reflecting on it is like what kind of the really important stuff often is really, really obvious.
Yeah. I think obvious things in this universe and like simplicity is I, I I think it's really I think those can be really spiritual concepts. I always feel like, oh, when I learn about sacred geometry, I'm like, oh wow, all these sacred geometrical shapes and golden ratios, it's all right in front of us. It's all like, I don't know, it seems like just some obvious level deeper. So it feels like, yeah, it feels like reality is trying to speak to us all the time. And it becomes obvious when we start paying attention. But oddly, just trickily right below the surface. But when Mike, what do you like when you see, okay, your mind created the scenario about the cat that you reacted to strongly. So your mind created a scenario that your body reacted to, like the adrenaline, the cortisol, the worry. That's like a physical reaction. When you what do you think when you think about the rest of your life? Like, is your mind doing that on other areas of your life, or do you reflect on it that way?
Yeah. Well, you're in Canada right now, aren't you?
Yeah, I'm on the west coast of Canada, close
Um,
to where Jeremy is. He's not with us today, but I'm in his neck of the woods. Yeah, I went to West Coast.
so what, like one of the early influences on me was Bob Proctor, who's a wonderful teacher. I think where's he from? He's from Toronto, isn't he? He used to be a fireman in Toronto a long time ago.
Cool. I didn't know that. Cool.
And one of he was one of the people who really helped me to begin to understand that, for instance, he was doing a lot of seminars around goal setting and achieving, business success. And one of the things he was talking about, he says, look, if somebody, if a child was born in Canada but was immediately taken and adopted by a family in Japan, If the child had grown up in Canada, it would end up speaking either English and French, and it would have, it would see itself as a Canadian, and it would have Canadian likes and dislikes. It would have something of that culture. But if the
Hmm.
child was taken and grew up in Japan, it would speak Japanese. It would have a completely different culture, a completely different life expectant, life experience.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what's the difference? The difference is experience, and so that's how our minds have been, our identities are formed, our experiences, the things that we're drawing upon. So that's one way of talking about the way our minds are programmed
Hmm.
and the beliefs that we have. So, for instance, often artists. I work with quite a lot of artists. So someone who's an artist and is born into a family of artists doesn't really have very many problems thinking of themselves as an artist.
Yeah, for
Somebody
sure.
somebody very creative who might have been born into a family where no one's ever been an artist, and actually artists are somebody else. They're from a different place. They're not they're not people like us. Then that person might really really struggle with being an artist, and they'll have blocks to their making their art that maybe the other person hasn't got.
Right, 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 right. Yeah, from that inner dialogue.
So it's our assumption. It's the assumptions that we have about ourselves, the mental map that we make of the world, and a mental map. It's all mind stuff. It's all made of mind.
It's interesting. You say it's made of mind. Like it's like we create like the mind or the a maze or something in our mind, or like walls in our mind. So it's like made of mind. I don't know.
Well, a universe. If you think about it, when you lose consciousness tonight, you fall asleep. This world will disappear,
Yeah.
and another one will form, a stranger one.
True. Yeah, 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 yeah. True. Where the walls like just shift and move and breathe. Uh,
Then you'll wake up. Then you'll wake up from that world that you created, and you'll be back in this one again. And you'll say, "Oh, I
yeah.
woke up. I'm awake now." But you're still in a level of dreaming because we're still creating all of our experience through the way that we think and the way that we feel about it.
Right. Yeah, 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 yeah. And then does this world actually like disappear, right? Like we're yeah, our consciousness leaves this world, but it's the world that still exists, right? Just because we're sleeping, but we've just tuned out of it.
Yeah. Well, you could you can be with your partner and your partner falls asleep and the world disappears for her. And when she wakes up, she'll say, "How long did I sleep for?" And you will tell her what happened, but
Yeah.
she's only got your word for it. You're telling her what happened in your world, and then she's going to believe you as well. But it's still a creation of the mind. I'm not saying
Yeah, right.
not saying the physical world. You're not going to step out in front of a speeding car. It's going to cause you problems. But there's a lot more malleability to the world than we typically think of. So you change your mind, you change what you're thinking, you change what you're believing, you change how you feel internally, and you'll notice your experience changes. So we're just pointing at the link between consciousness and experience.
Yeah. Yes. Yes. In the kind of therapy side of things, in cognitive behavioral therapy, a, a big flagship they talk about is your thoughts lead to feelings and feelings lead to behaviors. And they're talking about, if you don't if I'm anxious about this thing that's coming up, if I'm anxious about this job interview, like I'm gonna blow it, I'm not gonna get it, I'm not qualified for this job, I don't deserve it, like it's self-worth talk, then you go into the interview with that nervousness, and that nervousness is picked up on, and that nervousness is seen, and yeah, which leads to results. But yeah, yeah, I think that's true. I think that's true. I think our bodies will react to what's happening in our mind, like whatever we're making up in our mind, whatever story, whether it's real or not, our bodies will react to it as if it's real.
Yeah, so there's there's a lot in it, and I thought it was just would be it's just a good idea to begin to just open up that conversation, which isn't a new conversation, it isn't one that people won't have come across before.
Yeah.
But the more you become aware of it, the more you kind of work with it, the more you can come into a feeling of being at the center of your own experience. And because we've got willpower, we can begin to change the way that we're thinking. And so with the cognitive behavioral therapy that that you're talking about as well, a lot of that work is changing your thought patterns, thinking differently, thinking differently, thinking differently, and repeatedly thinking differently.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. And we've got the I know Bruce Lipton talks a lot about, our subconscious programming. And when we're, between the ages of 0 to 7 and 7 to 12 and all the way up to 25, we're still developing. But all of that, all of how we, yeah, like see the world between 0 and 7, we take that in and we plug it into our subconscious. And then that's like that's what we're referencing as we go through life. That's what we're going through. That's why everyone mimics what their parents do and their parents mimic what their grandparents do, because we're with those people in those developmental years. And like, yeah, like you said, the environment, Bruce Lipton talks a lot about that too. He said the environment is what shapes the person. It's not necessarily like the person that shapes the environment, although it could go both ways, I guess, kind of thinking about it. But yeah, just your mind and your perception has a big influence on like what you're going to see in the world. And when we can really like adjust our perception. I think sometimes adjusting our perception is easier than changing like the external situation. Yeah. And have you heard that quote, Mike? If you change the way you look at things, the things you look at will change. Have you heard that?
I've heard something like that, and it's true, isn't it? If
Yeah.
if you look at people as mean and selfish, and you can't trust them, because and some people's experience has been that people have been like that, but then you're in a world where people are mean and you can't trust them. If somebody then is kind to you, it's actually difficult to even recognize that somebody is being kind to you or to accept it. You know. And then obviously we're looking at the negative case there, looking at the positive case. If you stop judging people, you make an effort to be compassionate, you recognize that just everybody's just about as lost as everybody else, and everyone's trying to find their way in the world, and actually you start to become friendly towards others and friendly to yourself, then you start to see a friendly world.
I think so. Yeah, yeah,
It's so ridiculously simple. It's so ridiculously simple, but that doesn't make it easy, to
yeah. Yeah.
change.
No, yeah, I think simplicity is much different than ease of doing things. I think it's like it's simple to know or to realize, like, wait, we should treat each other well. We should treat each other with respect, and we'd all get a lot further if there was no borders and if we did have a real democracy, but things all get in the way, and then of course, the second you try to live that way, it's like, oh well, I actually hate the way this guy does that thing, and I can't stand the way this person says that thing. And yeah, like the inability to not hold grudges and not be offended and not need to say your piece and not need to be heard and spoken yourself, like all that stuff just takes over and it makes like the simplicity quite difficult. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
But I mean, but I also think that, and this is kind of where the vein of courses for spirit runs, is like a good question, is it worth jumping in there and trying to do things that are harder? Like, is it worth trying to pay attention to that? And how can I get in there and sharpen my skills and try to survive that? And yeah, is there any merit to growing spiritually? Does it make that whole challenge like easier at all? Does being spiritual make simplicity like simpler? Is that even something you want to do? I don't know, but it's cool that we're talking about these things. There's a question to go with.
Well, I tend to think about spirituality as getting to know yourself on the deepest levels.
Yeah, I think of it as getting to know like yourself or reality or life on the deepest levels. Um, and in that whole search, you come across the notion that, okay, we're all one, it's all one consciousness, it's all one thing. So now you're kind of trying to understand all three things at the same time, but separately. So yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I agree with you. I agree with you. Yeah.
It becomes so ridiculously simple, it's not even worth talking about. So that's the problem. You can't actually talk about it. You through spiritual practices, through one way to do it is through reading. You can read, but you can be around other people who also have spiritual kind of who are living a spiritual life. You can practice the breath work or meditation or stretching or being in nature. Whatever path unfolds for you, you walk along that path. And all of those paths, no matter how they may meander, they're all leading us to an understanding of ourselves at the deepest level. And at the deepest level, you kind of realize that you are. In the Bible, this is, I think it's Moses is talking to God, and he says, "What is your name?" And he says, "I am."
Mm.
It's like, oh, that's not very useful. I was thinking you might have a different name than that. But I am. And so there's a process of recognizing yourself.
Process of recognizing yourself. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Which is, but the thing is, everybody can remember what it was like to be 10 or something like that, to be a kid. Before you've really got a very strong, constructed mental identity about who you are. And you can remember, I think nearly everybody can remember being really curious and feeling excited about the world and fascinated by it and not knowing anything. You assume other people know things, but there's a point when you're a kid, you don't know anything.
Yeah. And it's even all interesting to try to tap into that state of mind, like that frame of mind when you were thinking, like just, I don't know, I feel so different than that now, you know?
Yeah. And so all of those layers of experience and ideas and stuff, you go through life experiences, you do spiritual practices, they begin to melt away. You realize like the cat was behind the wardrobe, the cat is not lost, you know, and slowly it just gets to this really simple thing where it's like you can't talk about it anymore. Like when you were a kid can't really describe to you. I don't actually. I've never tried this, but I would assume a kid wouldn't be able to describe to you what it's like to be them right then, because they just are themselves.
And I'm trying to imagine what it's like asking a 10-year-old happy kid that question, what's it like to be you? And I'm picturing them saying, oh, I don't know, like
Look at
this or
that.
that. And
Look at that. Look at that. Do you want to do this? Hey, look at this. Boom. They'll just be like, whoa, you know.
yeah. Yeah.
And so, like on one level, when we're talking about spiritual unfoldment or spiritual awakening or however you want to talk about it, it is about simplicity. It's simplicity, and if you have that starts to become, it's sort of, from my experiences, it just sort of starts to flicker on and off, and sometimes you're in it and sometimes you're looking for a cat that you think is missing but isn't missing, and you're feeling terrible. And then you know, so I think, I know we said we're going to start talking about affirmations. And affirmations, they connect to this malleability of the mind, this connection of reality and consciousness.
Oh yeah, for sure.
you know and for anybody who's listening or watching and hasn't heard of that before, so an affirmation is something that you say to yourself, that maybe you don't believe it's true when you start saying it, but through repetition, and feeling it, you start to become more familiar with that thought and that feeling. And over time, by repeating those thoughts and feelings over and over and over again, they take root. They start to be seeded into your mind. So imagine like a little seed gets planted. It starts to grow roots and shoots until eventually what you've implanted into your mind you start to experience it. And there's always a delay in time between starting to work with affirmations, because the affirmations that you've been making beforehand, they've got an energy, and so their energy, you have to experience the energy of the way you were thinking before. So if you're thinking, so I'm gonna choose an affirmation from Scientific Healing Affirmations from Paramahansa Yogananda, and this one is particularly about how do you bridge, how do you come to terms with material success and spiritual success? How do you bring those two together? Because quite often there's a conflict in people's minds between material success and spiritual success.
Hmm. Hmm.
And very often, people, myself included, we're brought up in environments where there's lack and limitation. So, my parents would say to me, no, we can't afford that. What do you think money's made on trees? Does money doesn't, do you think I'm made of money? Money doesn't grow on trees. So you get all of this kind of conditioning.
Yeah.
So, I mean, one of the goals that I set for myself about maybe 10 or 15 years ago, was to live in the company of saints and masters. It was like, I want to live in the company of saints and masters. That's what I want, kind of more than anything else. I want to be around those kind of energies. And so I kind of made that I started to visualize that. What would that look like? And I set it as a goal. And eventually, actually, through the teachings of Paramahansa Yogananda, that has become true for me. Saints and masters are energies that are on the planet, and anyone, by turning your attention to them, you can begin to align yourself with their energy. Paramahansa Yogananda was an Indian teacher, and he was a fully awake, fully self-realized being. And so he's left us with these books, and the affirmation that I'm going to read today contains a spiritual energy. So it's a spiritual seed. It's got the energy of the masters and the saints on it. So by learning it off by heart, or by listening to it over and over again, what you do is you take that ascended energy and you begin to plant it into your own mind, your subconscious mind, where it begins to grow. And then over time, eventually, after the old seeds that you've put in have worked their way out, you start to experience the affirmation that you're making. So I'm going to give that a go. So this is called Affirmation for Material Success, and it comes from the book Scientific Healing Affirmations by Paramahansa Yogananda. Before we do the affirmation, you got anything to say about that stuff, Mason?
I mean, yeah, I love what you were saying. I feel I would probably say something along the lines of what you said, just in my own words. And that's, yeah, it's just like saying a new affirmation, I feel like it's creating a new neural pathway, a new brain system, like new neurons, new way of thinking. And yeah, it's just a great way to counterbalance some of the negative self-talk or negative core beliefs we have of the mind. It's uh, they advertise to us all the time. You don't crave a cheeseburger until you've seen 50 commercials, and sometimes you do that in a day. So yeah, these techniques really work. Advertising companies know it. Like this repetition is key. And then the same works for something positive. Yeah, something beautiful. And I find if you apply like this simplicity to an affirmation, this simplicity that we're talking about, that we see in the universe, that we feel in the universe, when we tap into that feeling, it's also there for us to kind of use in a way. And so if we apply that feeling to an affirmation, so an example is like, I'm worth it. I don't like, I think that's a simple, easy to fulfill affirmation versus maybe a complex one. Like I affirm I'll be pretty wealthy at age 52 and I'll have the, classic car I've always wanted. And I do want that house with the white picket fence. And I love this type of a partner. And of course, I'm going to have the dog I've always wanted. And things will just be like, it can get complicated manifesting things. But I think that simplicity of, oh, I deserve all those things. I deserve whatever comes to me and would leave it at that. I think simplicity and affirmations just go hand in hand super well. That's what I'll say about that.
Okay, all right. So let's jump into this one. So this is an affirmation that was created by fully self-realized master. And what he tells us in the book is that he has impregnated these affirmations with spiritual power. So it's a seed for your subconscious mind. For anybody who comes across this recording, I recommend getting hold of this book and learning this one off by heart. I'm in the process of this. I've been working with this for a few weeks, just a few weeks now, and the deeper I go into it, the more joyful it becomes to think like this. So, if you're listening along at home, obviously not if you're driving or anything like that. It's just you can't do this while you're driving or operating machinery. Just find yourself just a comfortable position. You can have your eyes open or your eyes closed. And we'll just take 3 deeper breaths. First breath in through the nose if you can. Out through the mouth. In however you can. And out. And then one last breath. So this affirmation is speaking directly to the divine, and it's using the male aspect. There's also affirmations from this tradition that talk to the Divine Mother or the Mother Earth. So whereas I guess people who are used to Western-based religions, they only really tend to think of the Father as the aspect of the divine. This one is using Father. Thou art my Father, success and joy. I am thy child, success and joy. All the wealth of this earth, all the riches of the universe belong to thee, belong to thee. I am thy child. The wealth of the earth and universe belongs to me. belongs to me. Oh, belongs to me. Belongs to me. I lived in thoughts of poverty and wrongly fancied I was poor, so I was poor. Now I am home. Thy consciousness have made me wealthy, made me rich. I am successful. I am rich. Thou art my treasure. I am rich. I am rich. Thou art everything. Thou art everything. Thou art mine. I have everything. I have everything. I am wealthy. I am rich. I have everything. I have everything. I possess all and everything, even as thou dost. Even as thou dost. I possess everything. I possess everything. Thou art my wealth. I have everything. So that's just one reading of that affirmation. And what you probably notice about it is it's helping you seed the truth of your true reality, your true identity as the creation of the Creator, or in this case, the son or the daughter of God, the child of God. It's the intimate relationship that we have with, well, that part of us that we've been told is somewhere off on a cloud, or it's a long, long way from us. But actually, the true early, authentic Christian teachings, and the Hindu and the Buddhist, they teach us that is inside of us. It's not outside of us. In fact, it's who we are. And what I love about this affirmation is it's putting the two together. So, we live in the world, so we do need to look after our material needs. And a lot of spiritual people, do suffer with the worry that comes from not having all your physical needs met. And so this affirmation is bringing the two together and realizing that because of who we are, we already have everything, and we just need to come into the knowledge that the cat is not lost. The cat is safe at home in the cupboard. God is inside you. Spirit is inside you. The divine is inside you. It's who you are. You didn't make it. It made you. The only difference is we were created by the divine. We didn't create the divine. That's the only difference. That's what the Bible tells you. That's what the Bhagavad Gita will tell you. That's what Buddhists don't have a God or a creator, but they'll tell you the same thing, that it's you. The thing you're looking for is you. And that's why when you do find the thing you're searching for, it's difficult to talk about, because what can you say about it? So this beautiful, beautiful affirmation. It's so powerful. It's just so powerful. And I'm glad it's a fairly recent discovery for me, that particular affirmation. That's one that I really encourage everybody who's on a spiritual path to work with that affirmation. Get a hold of I think it's about £6. It's just a little book like this. So that's Scientific Healing Affirmations by Paramahansa Yogananda, published by the Self-Realization Fellowship, which was founded in 1926. Is it 1926? It's so small I can't read it. 1920s anyway. So it's kind of it's ancient stuff, and it's when you think about something that was brought to America in the 1920s, that seems like quite a long time ago as well, doesn't it?
Super long, yeah.
Such wisdom, such power in those teachings.
Yeah. Yeah, it was a long time ago. It seems like yesterday in the time of the grand scheme of things. Like it was a short time in the grand scheme of time, but I mean, 100 years ago it was so long ago. Wow. Yeah. Okay.
Back in the day when everybody wore hats.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I don't know. So, yeah, I don't know. Yeah. And here we are today using it, like using it, not just talking about it. We're using it, Mike. Yeah. Okay.
And that's the hour. That's the live. That's we've come to the end of the live stream. So thank you for everyone who's joined us live, and thank you to everybody who watched the recording. And I do hope you will, if you know, if it is something, and I know a lot of spiritual people really do need to want to solve that tension between being spiritual and having your financial needs met. Really, I'm just going to show you that picture. Tiny little book, full of spiritual power. Yeah, and I think it's time for us to click off, I guess.
Yeah. Hopefully that discussion was helpful or got some gears moving. Thanks so much, everybody. It's lovely just talking, sharing with you, with Mike.
And I think Jeremy will be back with us next weekend. He's otherwise engaged today, so um, lots of love to everyone. See you next Sunday. Thank you so much for joining us, and all power and all health and all wealth to you.
Just love. Yeah. Simplicity. I second that, but just love. So much love. Got it.
Just love.